Trade your meal for my teddy bear, human. My brother hasn't eaten in days. The city sector was a graveyard of forgotten dreams. Rusted metal walkways crisscrossed between towering structures of concrete and steel, their surfaces scarred by decades of neglect. Rain fell in heavy sheets, carrying the acrid taste of industrial pollution. Zara pressed herself against a cold wall, her thin fingers clutching a small turquoise teddy bear worn thin from years of holding. Beside her stood Kai, her younger brother. At 7 years old, he was impossibly small, smaller than he should be. His ribs were visible through his threadbare shirt, and his eyes held the hollow look of someone who hadn't seen a proper meal in far too long. 3 days. It had been 3 days since they'd eaten anything substantial. The scraps they'd found at the waste facility 2 days ago had barely been enough for him to survive on. Zara was 14, old enough to understand what starvation meant, old enough to comprehend the impossible choice before her. She clutched the teddy bear tighter, feeling the familiar softness of its fur against her palms. It was the last gift their mother had given them before she'd vanished into the lower districts, searching for work that never materialized. That was 2 years ago. "We can't keep doing this," Kai whispered, his voice barely audible over the pounding rain. Zara didn't respond. She couldn't. The words in her throat felt like broken glass. The factory workers would be changing shifts soon. They always passed through this sector on their way back to the elevated district where they lived. Zara had observed them for weeks now, studying their patterns, their resources, their lives that seemed impossibly abundant compared to hers and Kai's. Most of them carried meal packets in their satchels, full meals, the kind that made Kai's stomach growl in hunger and desperation. When the first worker appeared through the mist, Zara's heart hammered against her ribs. She stepped forward, Kai's small hand gripped tightly in her left hand, the teddy bear held before her like an offering in her right. The man stopped. He was large, with a weathered face and tired eyes that had seen too much. He looked down at them with the expression most humans wore when confronted with the forgotten children of the lower sectors, a mixture of pity and discomfort. "Please," Zara's voice cracked. She forced it stronger. "I have something to trade. My teddy bear. It's old, but it's precious. Please, I just need your meal. My brother hasn't eaten in 3 days. He's sick. He needs food more than I need." She couldn't finish. Her voice broke entirely. The man's expression shifted. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, recognition, perhaps, of his own children waiting at home, or memories of a time before his current prosperity. "That bear?" he asked, his tone gruff but not unkind. "It was my mother's," Zara said, which was only partially true. Her mother had received it as a gift long ago and had passed it to her with instructions to keep Kai safe. "But my brother needs food more than I need a memory." Kai looked up at her, his enormous eyes filled with unshed tears. He didn't speak. He never did when Zara was negotiating. He understood, somehow, at his young age, that their survival depended on her words, her bargaining, her willingness to sacrifice everything she had left. The man reached into his satchel. For a moment, Zara thought she'd won. But instead of pulling out his meal packet, he withdrew a small wrapped package. He examined it, then looked back at them. "This was supposed to be for my lunch tomorrow," he said slowly. "But I'll take your bear. My daughter collects them. Old ones, new ones. It doesn't matter. She'd want to know it came from somewhere real, that it mattered to someone." Zara's hands trembled as she extended the teddy bear. The worn fabric was soft beneath her fingertips, and for a moment, she couldn't let go. This bear had been her comfort through 2 years of unimaginable loss and hardship. It had been there when her mother disappeared. It had been there through the cold nights when they huddled together for warmth in abandoned buildings. "It's called Skylar," she whispered. My mother named him. The man took the bear gently, as if understanding its significance. He turned it over in his hands, examining the loose seams and faded patches. Then he pressed the meal packet into her palm. It was warm, and Zara could smell the rich aroma of real food, protein, grains, vegetables that had been synthesized but were still nutritious and filling. "There's enough for both of you," he said. "Eat slowly. Your brother's stomach won't be used to food. If you eat too fast, you'll both get sick." Zara opened her mouth to thank him, but the man was already walking away, cradling Skylar gently against his chest. She wanted to call out, to tell him to take care of the bear, to explain all the comfort it had provided. But the words died in her throat. Instead, she guided Kai to a sheltered alcove between two buildings, where the rain was less oppressive. She carefully opened the meal packet and broke off small pieces, feeding them to her brother slowly, methodically. She watched his face transform as the food reached his stomach, watched color return to his cheeks, watched the desperate hunger fade from his eyes. When they had eaten what they could manage, Zara held her brother close, feeling his small frame trembling against hers. He cried silently, tears mixing with the rain that dripped from the eaves above them. "We'll be okay," she whispered into his hair, though she didn't entirely believe it herself. "The bear," Kai said softly. "You loved that bear." "I do," Zara admitted. "But I love you more." Skylar understood that. Skylar would have wanted this. They sat in the darkness as the rain continued to fall, as the city shifted and changed around them. Somewhere in the elevated district, a man's daughter would receive a worn teddy bear with a tag that read $5, and she would treasure it. She would never know the sacrifice it represented, never understand the love that had driven its former owner to release it into the world. And in the lower districts, a girl and boy would survive another night. Tomorrow they would face new challenges, new impossible choices. But tonight they had eaten. Tonight they had each other. As sleep finally claimed Kai, his small hand still gripping hers, Zara looked up at the dark sky barely visible through the haze of industrial pollution. Somewhere out there, her mother was looking for a way home. And Zara would be here, waiting, surviving, sacrificing whatever it took to keep her brother alive. The teddy bear was gone, but its legacy, the love it represented, the choice it had symbolized, would endure far longer than any toy ever could.